Pro NBA player, Bucks star, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I have no clue how to pronounce that name. Has money in 50 different bank accounts. I thought this would be a pretty crazy read because that sounds insane. So the NBA superstar known as the Greek Freak has given new meaning to the term bank shot. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the two-time MVP who last year led the Milwaukee Bucks to their first NBA title since 1971, opened bank accounts with 50 different banks, each one of them holding $250,000, his boss, team owner, Mark Lazary, told Bloomberg News. The $250,000 sum is the maximum amount of cash that a depositor can hold in an account that would be covered by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp or the FDIC. FDIC protects depositors of insured banks against the loss of their deposits if that bank fails. Lazary, the billionaire hedge fund manager and founder of private equity firm Avenue Capital Group, told Bloomberg that he gave Greek Freak and other Bucks players valuable investment advice. I spend a lot of time with them explaining where they should invest, Lazary told a conference in New York. I'm like, Giannis, you can't be having accounts at 50 different banks. Let me tell you something. If JP Morgan goes under, your little dinky banks are going to go under too. Let me explain what you should buy. You should buy US Treasuries. You should buy this. Since entering the NBA in 2013, Antetokounmpo has earned a total of $146,344,870, and that's just from playing basketball. Wow, that is so much money. Props to you, man. That is awesome. Wow. His off-court endorsements are at least in the eight figures, and Antetokounmpo raked in $47 million combined from his basketball salary and endorsements. That is crazy. Lazary, whose son Alex is a Democratic Party candidate for the U.S. Senate seat from Wisconsin, currently held by Republican Ron Johnson, became a co-owner of the Bucks after buying his stake in the team for $550 million. Interesting. Okay, so let's actually check out these comments. Certainly not a terrible idea, but the interest in a bank account is about 1/10 of 1%. He could get $250,000 5-year bank CDs at 50 or 100 banks and get about 2.7%, a little more with 10-year US Treasuries. If it were me, I'd be 60% or more in US stock index funds, but that is not his investor profile. And here's the thing, right? I would be pretty similar to what this Mark Hugh W person put. I would lean more to putting a little bit over half of this money into like index funds and then the other amount of money towards more so maybe like real estate, maybe like very specific investments. This person says if JP Morgan goes under, your little dinky banks are going to go under too. Well, isn't that kind of why he opened 50 accounts to begin with? The FDIC insurance means the money is backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government. I would agree. I wonder if this NBA star believes he can take this cash to heaven. Let's see. Any more comments? I saw this behavior on Wall Street with Eastern Europeans and Latin investors. It helps them sleep at night knowing 50 pockets are better than one. Imagine earning $142 million. Come on, that's not even Monopoly money. That's not even video game RPG money. Is that number even real? I mean, I have to agree. I mean, can you imagine, like, going through the reality of, like, wait a minute, I literally made $142 million. Wow. Oi, such problems I should have. Kind of one and all. We should read less about their vast riches and more on how wealth is accumulated. I am thinking mostly through tax avoiding and slavery. I mean, this is the NBA, yes. Interesting comment. That's only $12.5 million. The rest must be stuffed under his many mattresses. I guess he's afraid of getting Me Too'd or the US government grabbing it all in one shot. Wonder what he's thinking. Also, wonder why his boss would disclose this. I'd be pissed. And here's the thing, too, right? Like, your boss shouldn't be telling anyone about the amount of money that you have. That dude is a trip. Invest wisely and don't end up like MC Hammer. Who cares? Greek freak won't be broke, that's for sure. This is to make child support judgment collections in the future go nuts trying to find his money. Relax, Shalomo. Interesting. And here's the thing, right? I think this was like an interesting article just because, like, you got to put it in this way, right? He's in basically a probably in a different mindset than most people are in, right? The majority of people are in the mindset of, I need to make more money. I have to make more money. I got to make more money. I got to make enough money to be able to retire. I got to make enough money to survive. I got to make enough money to pay for medical bills, all that kind of stuff, right? Taxes, etc. But he's at the point of his life that very few people actually get, which is you have so much money that you have access to that you can retire right now if you wanted to. You can buy whatever it is that you want to in like a multitude, right? He could pretty much go anywhere. He could travel anywhere. He could put his money into any sort of real estate, any sort of stock, any sort of business, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, when you get to probably like a certain like high income or yeah, high income and also high net worth that he is at, like the nine-figure mark, you're probably thinking more so of conserving that amount of money more so than making more money because you've already made your money, right? Like you've already made your money. Not to mention, he still has his career still ahead of him. He still has endorsement deals coming in. So it's like he probably realizes that in the grand scheme of things, he doesn't really have to make any sort of crazy investment, right? I mean, he doesn't even have to make any sort of investment that's really risky at all, right? If he's purely about like the conservation of his net worth, of his wealth, so that he could have access to massive amounts of money at any given time, then yeah, having these in different bank accounts isn't necessarily a bad idea because the only thing that he's going to be facing is the loss of purchasing power through inflation, right? Now, again, if I was him in his situation with that kind of money, I'd put the majority of it into like index funds. I'd put a portion of it into like some sort of real estate. I'd put it into things that would beat inflation in terms of like its growth, would end up beating inflation so that I don't end up losing purchasing power, but then I'll end up putting some money into things that will actually generate some sort of income so that if something were to ever happen in terms of like the career or the endorsements or whatever, I'd have these assets that are producing some sort of cash flow that if I need to, I could dip into that amount of money that is producing and live off of it, right? If I need to, in terms of like an emergency. So, this is the thing that people need to understand. What these extremely wealthy individuals at that like level of wealth, they may have a different viewpoint on what to do with their money because they've already made the majority of their money. And that's something to really think about. If you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40unbox.com.